Hi, everybody. So I want to get on here and talk to you all about immigration because we do have an upcoming election, and this is an issue which is very important to many people, especially those who are struggling in this piss poor economy. And we're basically being gaslit and we're basically being fed a bunch of lies. And unfortunately, this is the reason why people voted for Trump because although Trump did not deliver on his promises in terms of securing the border, he basically was listening to people. He at least was giving lip service to the common man, while most people are being ignored. We're being told that mass immigration benefits us, that it uh, is going to lead to a thriving economy. And to a certain extent, we can say, yes, it benefits us to some extent, right? Because if I need my fixed fence, if I need my car fixed, I'm probably going to go to an immigrant because they're going to be cheaper. But there's a limit to that. At a certain point, they do overwhelm local economies. They do take business or jobs away from uh, native residents. And they do basically change your entire way of life. They're actually changing our culture, that we're basically being forced to learn other languages to accommodate them. They're not assimilating to our culture. We're being forced to assimilate to their culture. Now, I don't know why they're doing this because we have candidates who are running, right? When you're running, especially for a national election, you have a constitutional mandate to serve the American people. But they're basically bypassing the American people and they're trying to curry favor with those who aren't even eligible to vote. I have no idea why they're doing this. Why are they doing this? Why are they selling out the American people? Now, I'll talk to you all about how open borders is a Koch brothers policy that it basically only benefits the corporations. I'm going to get into some data, but yeah, it benefits corporations, right? It does benefit the local governments because they have a labor force, but it doesn't benefit the common man. It absolutely does not. It just like I said, there you can get cheap services locally, but even I have to admit, because when I got my fixed fence and I hired a migrant, somebody sent me this nasty email saying that he knew that I chose a migrant over him, and I'm like, yeah, I chose a migrant because your prices were too high. So even I put a local business, or I chose a migrant over a local business. So it is what it is. So this is a major problem. I don't know why anybody thinks that they're going to get the black vote or even this poor people. They're not going to support this. The American people do not support open borders. These local economies are being overwhelmed. I don't know why you need to make up stories about Haitians eating dogs and cats to push this narrative. Stick with the facts. We know what's going on. We see that these migrants are doing better than us. We see that their kids are doing better than us. That they have thriving businesses. They have brand new cars. They're buying houses. They have their thriving businesses, while the American people, the native residents, are not doing so well. So stop gaslighting us. Stop telling us that we're not seeing what we're saying. Stop telling us to believe your rhetoric over our lying eyes. Um, and the data is not supporting what they're saying. By the way, I'm going to post a link because um, I want to make sure I don't do, because sometimes I wait until the end and then I miss people who want to come. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. But I'm going to get into some data, right? Because they're feeding us a whole bunch of lies. And in this election cycle, you basically need to demand that they serve your will. I already showed y'all that study from, well, actually, there was a study from Princeton University which shows that Congress does not serve the will of the people. They don't even care. They serve the top 1%. They serve their corporate donors. They don't serve the American people. So um, let's get into this data. I know I just lost somebody. It is what it is. I'm probably going to piss some people off, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit up here and lie. We know that it does not. benefit the American people. So make sure y'all can see. I'm sorry, I just went off to the wrong screen. Um, what did I just do? I'm sorry, y'all. Here we go. Um, I think this is it. Okay. All right. Make sure y'all can see it. This is from the Center for Immigration Studies. So the article is called "The Wages of Immigration," and this isn't a recent study, but this it applies now. The same data that they're using right now. Let me because this is qualitative, not quantitative. So because immigration increases the supply of labor, it is often suggested that it will reduce wages or make jobs more scarce for natives. Now, this is something that all economists will admit, that an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages. Um, Now, when I get into the second article, I'm going to talk about the environment, but an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages. It doesn't necessarily have to come from immigration. It can come from fertility rates, right? But it so happens that the American population growth is largely due to migration because Americans are reproducing at replacement rate. So a lot of these people, we can say, okay, I know some people will say that it's because of the American policies that we have destabilized them, we have toppled their leaders and all that stuff. Fine, but at the end of the day, we're basically in survival mode. We don't have time to be charitable. It's time to take care of our own people. Charity starts at home. So even if that is true, you still have a constitutional mandate to serve the American people. You can help them through trade, which I'm going to get to in a minute. You don't necessarily have to sacrifice resident natives in order to benefit people who are not even a part of your constituency. They can't vote. So why are you even putting them over the Americans who supported you in the first place? So, like I said, all the economists recognize that an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages, but um, Americans are being responsible. They're procreating at replacement rate, or even in some cases below replacement rate. But these people in these countries, it's not just because of American policy. Some of them have destroyed their own economies by breeding to access. When you look at countries like India, there are no jobs, there are no opportunities because they are breeding like rats. And I'm sorry that that sounds offensive, but I'm an anti-natalist, and that's not racist either because I don't support black people breeding to access either. It has nothing to do with race. It's about your behavior. And if you're going to have so many people that there are no opportunities, and then you're going to come to America and do the same thing to our economy and just have 5, 6, 7, 8 children, and then all those children are going to need jobs. They're all going to need housing. They're all going to need places to go to school. They're going to overcrowd the grocery store. I mean, not the grocery stores, but it all leads to social problems, right? You're going to have high gas prices because there are people using it, high demand for housing, um, traffic jams. I don't know why people keep saying that overpopulation is a myth. It's not talked about in America, and I don't know why. I think it's because the Elon Musk of the world are trying to encourage people to continue procreating because they want to exploit the cheap labor. They know that an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages. In Europe, they actually tell people to have fewer children. But um, in the 1960s, during the baby boomer generation, they were telling people to only procreate at replacement rate. But now, nobody's talking about that at all. Now there's so much misinformation about what overpopulation actually means. It's about carrying capacity. That if you procreate beyond your geographic location's ability to carry it, meaning I mean, there's many interpret or uh, implications when it comes to carrying capacity. That can be the ability to provide jobs for it. It can be sustainability in terms of the environment. That if you have too many people to to feed it, to feed the local, to feed the population locally, right? Then you have procreated beyond the carrying capacity. Now, we don't see the immediate effects of overpopulation because we have a global economy and we're basically exploiting the third world for our resources. So even if we breathe beyond our carrying capacity, we can just rape the third world. We can just exploit their resources. We can take their food, their natural raw materials, and then we don't see the effects of it. But this is all going to bite us in the ass at some point. The chickens are going to come home to roost when the US dollar collapses and we actually have to provide for ourselves and start raping the third world. And we can't just use the US dollar to prop up a failed economy, right? Because there's so many things, and I don't want to get ahead of myself and start conflating all these issues, but the U.S. dollar is a fiat currency. It's not even money; it's currency. And the only reason that the economy hasn't tanked is, and again, I don't want to get too deep into what the difference between money and currency is, but currency is based on force. That it has no actual value. The only value that it has is based on force. Everyone is forced to use it, and so it's an artificial fiat. It has government imposed value, but without the government behind it, without the state's threat of physical force, right? Because there is a monopoly on the use of that currency. You can't just go and make your own money and then expect people to accept it, because there will be government there will be physical force. You will be thrown in prison, you'll be thrown in a cage, and your wealth will be taken from you. So there is a monopoly on currency, but I don't want to get to that because I'm eventually going to come back to that in a separate article. But where was I? So job competition between immigrants and natives is thought to be especially fierce at the bottom of the labor market because so many immigrants are employed in the low-skilled, low-wage segments of the economy. However, research that has attempted to measure such effects empirically has often come to contrary and conflicting conclusions. That's because they're using the wrong indicators. They're using the GDP. They're focusing on tax revenue. Um, so sure, it benefits the corporations. Sure, it benefits the local governments, the counties, the municipalities. Does it benefit you? It absolutely does not. Studies done in the 1980s and early 1990s, which compared cities with different proportions of immigrants, generally found little effect from immigration. Um, let's keep going. One way researchers have attempted to deal with the problems associated with cross-city comparisons is to estimate the increase in the supply of labor in one skill category relative to other skill categories brought about by immigration nationally. The wage consequences calculated based on an existing body of literature that has examined the wage effects of changes into the ratio of skilled to unskilled workers. Estimates derived from this method reveal significant negative effects on the wages of unskilled labor. Right. So it doesn't affect those who are skilled, those who are higher income. It only affects the lower, like basically those who have a high school education. It's going to have a dramatic effect on those people, but everybody else is going to be fine. However, this approach is also problematic because the consequences of immigration are not measured directly, but rather only inferred from immigrant-induced changes in the relative supply of labor. Yeah, but I already told y'all this basic economics that an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages. I don't know any I'm eventually going to talk to y'all about the different economic theories. I believe there are nine of them, but under every nine of those economic theories an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages. So, um, and additionally, they always lie to us and say that when they come over here, they're not eligible for social service. That is a lie. Even if they are not, their children are. If their children are born, they can immediately be put on welfare, and they didn't even put anything into the system, and they're going now. You have to compete. There are native residents who are not eligible for social services, who need food stamps, who need housing, who need this and that, but they're not getting it because it's going to migrants. There's all these. I mean, we can talk about what's going on in Chicago, but this was going on way before Chicago and before um, the recent influx, because some of these border states are basically busing those residents to these sanctuary cities. But if you live in a border state, you have been dealing with this for a very long time. And I live in Texas. So the stuff that they're saying is absolute bullshit. I know people who tried to get food stamps, but um, basically the system is overburdened, and so there's a cutoff, and so a lot of people who need food stamps are not able to get it, even if it's a temporary thing. You could be married, but maybe you separated, and you just need to get back on your feet, and you're not getting it because there are too many people in the system. They're not going to tell you that it's migrants who are in the system, but when you go to apply for it, you go in the office and you see who's in there. It's a whole bunch of migrants, all of their damn children. And I'm not trying to be racist. It is what it is. You go in there and you can see this for your own, with your own two eyes. The study employs a log linear regression model with native workers as a unit of analysis. In addition to the immigrant composition of each occupation, 12 control variables are included in the regression equation. These include occupational level attributes such as the level of unit. By the way, gosh, there's so many issues that I don't even know if I'm going to get through this, but um, the fact that America has made the progress that it has been mostly through minorities fighting, and not poor and minorities, and I'm going to lump those two together because it can be poor white people too, but poor whites and minorities fighting for progress, right? Fighting for unions, fighting for legislation which benefits us. They don't do that. When they come in, they just come in. They don't fight for anything, and they reap all the benefits that everybody else fought for. So essentially what you have are a bunch of free riders. And I'm not even just talking about monetarily, I'm talking about socially, that the policies that okay, y'all, I know I have white people in my subscribe. This is not about racism, but I'm talking about the policies, like the civil rights. A lot of these policies were supposed to benefit the descendants of slaves, right? And so they come in and they reap all the benefits which were supposed to go to descendants of slaves, and then they want to look down on the very people who fought for them to have the rights that they enjoy. So a lot of them don't necessarily like black people. A lot of them think that they're better. They want to climb the corporate ladder and assimilate, and they can do that, right? They can just bleach their hair and get a nose job, and then at the end of the day, a lot of them will come into the inner city, start their businesses, right? Sell their overpriced goods and trinkets and whatever. Put their children through colleges, and then once they feel uppity enough, then they want to pack their bags and then go assimilate, and then all of a sudden they get to integrate into the higher echelons of society, and you can't do that because no matter what, you can't assimilate in the same way that they can. So initially they do have a language barrier, but once their children learn the language and they learn the culture, they can assimilate a lot quicker than you can. You will never be able to assimilate in the same way that they can. It doesn't matter how educated you are, you're just going to be who you are. yeah, even with my education, it didn't do shit for me. I have over $20,000 in student loan debt. Nobody's helping me, but yeah, I see them coming over here and they're thriving, and it's just not right. It's not right because our elected officials are supposed to serve us, and they're not. They're serving people who are not even a part of their voter base. This is the reason why democracy is a sham. Um, and even Rousseau, John Jacques Rousseau, talked about how democracy would lead to factions because it's majoritarian in nature. So in a majoritarian system, you're going to have factions, which are usually going to be racial or ethnic based. You're going to have the Hispanics, the blacks, the Asians. Everybody's competing for resources. Everybody wants to be a majority, and then you see the trend right now that everybody's being pushed out. Even the whites are in danger. They're not going to be a majority anymore. Um, Let me see where I am. I am an immigrant. I'm trying. Sorry, let me show this comment. I am an immigrant, and my country has immigrant. Which country are you from? Because even those countries, even Mexico, does not want the Guatemalans come in, and they don't support it in their country. So okay, what I want to say to y'all is that I'm an anarchist, but at the end of the day, immigration and borders is part of natural law. Even lions have borders, and they defend their territory to the death. There's a reason. They know that if other lions come in, those lions are going to mate with their females. They're going to take their food, and then they're basically going to be they're going to be fighting for survival at this point. They're not going to be able to provide for their own offspring. So this is natural law. I'm not a statist, but I am a nationalist, and I think that everybody should be a nationalist. We need to have thriving local economies. We need to be able to be self-sufficient. We need to grow our own food. We should not be dependent on a global economy. You should not have to drive 40 minutes to an hour to get to work. You need to the way that we're doing right now, we have a service-oriented economy. This is not sustainable. This is bullshit. We don't produce anything. Um, and I'm not again, and I'm sorry not to offend you if you are an immigrant. I'm not saying we shouldn't have immigrants. We shouldn't have mass immigration. When you have hordes and hordes of people coming in at the same time and they're not assimilating, you're basically going to overwhelm the economy. And if you're here and you came here the legal way, and you are contributing to the economy, fine. Nobody's talking about you. We're talking, okay, and on top of that, we need to have a diversity of migrants. They should not all be coming from one country, from one culture. They need to be coming from all over the planet, right? With different skills, with different things that they can contribute, different food, things that can benefit the American people. But we're having all people coming from the same country, right? Just because of their proximity to America, we're just going to absorb them because they're poor. Again, the way to help them is to establish trade with them so they can stay in their own country. It's not possible to absorb every poor person on the whole planet. So even those who want to help them, what you're saying is unrealistic. What is the limitation? How many people are we going to absorb into the American economy? You can have a welfare state or you can have open borders, but you can't have both. All countries must educate and prepare their citizens. This is the need to have immigrants earn PhDs and drive the economy of their host. Um, I don't know what you're saying. If they have a PhD and they come and you're saying that they're going to benefit their host countries, how does that benefit those who are already here? I mean, those who are the resident natives, they would like to get PhDs, right? They don't want to have to go to overcrowded colleges and then they have to compete and then their tuition costs are being driven up because there's so many people trying to get in. And then I'm sorry, I get what you're saying, but you're taking, at the end of the day, you are taking opportunities away from those who are already here. So how let me ask you this question. Wouldn't you like to have opportunities, or don't you think that those people should have opportunities in their host countries, in their home countries, right? Shouldn't we be building up their economy so that they can actually stay there and not have to come here? Right? It's not. I mean, this is not rocket science. So you benefited from being able to come to America, but what about all those other people who are still in their country? What are they supposed to do? What about those people who are not able to immigrate? Um, I mean, there's something to be said about staying in your homeland and fighting to make your country better, which is what we all had to do, right? We didn't get to just hop and go to another country. We had to stay here and fight to make things better. So at the end of the day, you're being a free rider, and I'm not talking about economically that you're benefiting from a fight which you did not have to participate in. You come here, you didn't have to fight the system. You have all these opportunities because somebody else came before you and fought for it. And then when you come in, you don't fight. If you were going to come in and be allies and help us fight the system, that would be one thing, but you're not. You're just reaping the benefits. Not just economically, but socially. You should be fighting, and you should be aligning yourself with those who are in this fight, but you're not. You're just reaping the economic benefits, which is not fair. Okay, so, and if you want to debate me, you can. This is just my opinion. Don't get offended. This is not for snowflakes. We, um, you can say whatever you want to say. If you want to say that I'm a black man and black men ain't shit, you can come up here and say that too. I really don't care. I'm not a snowflake. So, um, looking at all natives in the workforce, the results indicate that a 1% increase in the immigration composition of an individual's occupation reduces the weekly wages of natives in the same occupation by about 0.5%. Since roughly 10% of the labor force is composed of immigrants, these findings suggest that immigration may reduce the wages of the average native-born worker by perhaps 5%. In low skill occupations, the effects of immigration are much stronger. For the 23% of natives employed in these occupations, about 25 million workers, a 1% increase in the immigration composition of their occupation reduces wages by 0.8%. Since these occupations are 15% immigrant, this suggests that immigration may reduce the wages of the average native in a low skill occupation by perhaps 12% or $1,915 a year. So I'm sorry, like this is the raw data. This is not you can get emotional. This is not about racism. This is about numbers crunching, that an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages. It just is what it is. It's not because you're an immigrant, it's because you are a competitor in the labor force. So the more competition there is, the more that the corporations can reduce the wages. It just is what it is. This is, I mean, I don't know how else there's no way to sugarcoat this. If you're not being emotional and we are in survival mode. It's not time to be cushy and mushy and all of this kumbaya bullshit. This is about skimming the fat and protecting your own. And by our own, I mean the people the voters, the elected officials are supposed to protect their constituents. And by opening the borders and opening competition, they are not protecting their constituents. The effect of immigration on the wages of natives is national in scope and is not simply confined to cities or states with large concentration of immigrants. The findings indicate that immigration is likely to have contributed significantly to the decline in wages for workers with only a high school degree or less in the last 2 decades. Um, Let's read that again. The findings indicate that immigration is likely to have contributed significantly to the decline in wages for workers with only a high school degree or less in the last 2 decades. Now, that's what they're saying about the so-called low-skilled worker, but what about those who actually have degrees? Because I've seen migrants who are not even American citizens get law licenses. They're practicing attorneys who are not even U.S. citizens, and they actually run on this. They say, "Oh, my, I'm a descendant of migrants," and then they run for office and they get elected um, to be justices of the peace and city council members. So actually, not being a citizen and you're a migrant, that's actually a plus. Um, a lot of these districts are being overrun, and then you can't even run. So in my district, the fact that I'm not the fact that I'm not Latino, I can't run. Nobody. This is a Latino district, and they're going to win every time. So let's stop gaslighting people and saying that they're only taking low skill jobs. They're actually taking jobs that people actually want. They're taking elected positions. So this is a lie. I mean, you can see this with your own eyes. The presence of immigrants does not appear to have a discernible negative effect on the wages of natives employed in high-skilled occupations and may even increase wages in these occupations. So this is what they're talking about when they say that the economy benefits native-born Americans. No, they're talking about the high-skilled jobs, which is debatable. Okay, when it comes to technology and things like that, if they're actually bringing skills to the workforce, yes, I can see immigrants benefiting that. When it comes to low skilled labor, absolutely not. It does not benefit low skilled labor. You're going to see, when it comes to repairing cars, when it comes to doing home repairs, when it comes to cleaning businesses, landscaping, all of that stuff. No, it's going to drop the wages down. Um, it is live. It is live. I don't. Let me read some of these comments before I keep going. I'm sorry, this is a little too mathy for me. I'm usually on principle. Um, well, this is the thing. A lot of people. This is it's very confusing because a lot of people don't understand the math. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. At the end of the day, this is about overpopulation. So let's say you live in a house and there's two people and there's one bathroom. Okay, each of you can have equal bath time. It's not a fight. But you have 10 people in that same house, then you're going to be fighting for everything. You're going to be fighting for bathroom time. You're going to be fighting for I don't know, privacy. You're going to be fighting for who gets the big piece of chicken. It is what it is. This is I mean, this is complicated the way that they're saying, but you can just look at it on a local level that if there are more people, again, I talked to y'all about the carrying capacity, that if a local demographic exceeds its carrying capacity, it's going to have effects on the quality of life of everybody. So, I mean, we can get as sophisticated as you want to get, but this is the reason why people say that overpopulation is a myth, because they say that you can fit everybody into a state the size of California, right? Yeah, you can, but your quality of life is going to be poor. You can look at a country like India where it is overcrowded. Does America, I mean, do y'all want to live like the Indians where they're just they have these tiny houses, or even Japan? I mean, that's not a good quality of life. You want to reduce the population. And again, the American population boom, or our population increase is not through fertility rates. It is through immigration. So I know I'm losing people because this stuff is boring, but it's you need to know this stuff because when they gaslight you and tell you that it is in your best interest, they are not telling you the truth. As an anarchist, I disagree that the people on the earth, that the people on that side of the aren't just as much of. Okay, I'm an anarchist too, but at the end of the, this is not about statism. This is about nationalism, and again, the borders are that's under natural law. So are you saying that lions don't have a right to defend their territory? I mean, this is not something. This is not a social construct. Borders are natural law. So I don't understand what you're saying. A lot of people conflate nationalism with statism. It's not the same thing. You can have nationalism without a state. A, a nation is a voluntary association, whereas a state is based on force. And okay, let me ask you this. I want you to be honest with me if you're still here. You're from you said you're Mexican. You know good and well that most Mexicans are not going to support your anarchist views, right? They're going to be hardcore status. So how can you have an anarchist society with people when you're flooding the country with people who are hardcore status? They support authoritarian means. They're even when they do become voting members of society, they're not. They're going to support statism. They're going to support physical force. They're going to support throwing people in cages and taking your money away from you. They're not anarchists. And the fact that you are an anarch, that's a damn miracle because most of your brethren, they're not anarchists. You know that. You know good and well I'm telling the truth. And you are a rare, you are an anomaly. Actually, I would like to. I'm very interested in how you became an anarchist as coming from a socialist country because that is not the norm. I was trying to invite. Let me post this link again. If somebody wants to come up, you can. But I'm going to keep going, and maybe I know I lost people because I probably offended a whole bunch of people. But it is what it is. A lot of people don't understand the math. They said this is too complicated. I posted the link, but it's not going through. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna keep going because I don't want to lose even more people. So now we're going to get into the environment. The environmental argument for reducing immigration in the United States. The environmental argument for let me read this little because this actually was relevant. A serious commitment to environmentalism entails ending America's population growth and hence a more restrictive immigration policy. The need to limit immigration necessarily follows when we combine a clear statement of our environmental goals, living sustainably, and sharing the landscape generously with non-human beings, with uncontroversial accounts for our current demographic trajectory and of the negative environmental effects of U.S. population growth nationally and globally. Standard arguments for immigration status quo or for even more permissive immigration policy are without merit. Americans must choose between allowing continued high levels of immigration and creating a sustainable society. So basically, we're running off a cliff. This is not sustainable. I mean, I know there's a qualitative argument, which I'm not even going to address it because this article does address the that part of it that the ethics of closing the border. I'm not even going to address. Again, we are in survival mode and we don't have time for that. This is about protecting the American people. So the only arguments that I'm really interested in is how does it benefit the American people? And if you just say I just want to help my group of people and send money back to my no. It's time to be selfish because we are in survival mode. and the American economy is about to collapse if we don't get off course. This is a very serious issue, and it's not time to be emotional. It's time to put you and yours first. The environmental argument for reducing immigration into the United States is relatively straightforward. Immigration levels are at a historic high, and immigration is now the main driver of U.S. population growth. Population growth contributes significantly to a host of environmental problems within our borders. A growing population increases America's large environmental footprint beyond our borders and our disproportionate role in stressing global environmental systems. Um, I don't think this article says it, but the average American consumes 20 times as many resources as those in the third world. So our carbon footprint is much larger, and it's actually larger. It may even be greater than 20%. It depends on your level of affluence. So if you're a wealthy person, you may be consuming 60 times as many resources as someone in the third world. So um, everybody can't live like this. Everybody can't have cars. Everybody can't have bottled waters. This is not sustainable. And really, Americans should be living like this either. But if Americans are going to live like this, we need to reduce the population, because the sacrifice that we're going to need to make is not, people are not going to make it voluntarily. So if we want to have this high standard of living, we have to do it with fewer people. To seriously address environmental problems at home and become good global environmental citizens, we must stop U.S. population growth. We are morally obligated to address our environmental problems and become good global environmental citizens. Therefore, we should limit immigration into the United States to the extent needed to stop U.S. population growth. Now, let's see if I have any more comments before I know I'm losing people, but it is what it is. I think I have to do this. I'm still trying to post this link and it's not going through. I have no idea why. Okay, I'm just going to keep going because I don't want to lose even more people. All right. In 2006, the U.S. passed the 300 million mark in population. That's 95 million more than were here for the first Earth Day in 1970, with little comment from environmentalists. Because the environmentalists, they just want us to recycle. They want us to live a life of minimalism. They always talk about everything that we can do to sacrifice, but they never talk about reducing the population. In 2007, as Congress debated the first major overhaul of immigration policy in nearly 20 years, leaders from the principal environmental organizations remained silent about competing proposals that could have met the difference between a U.S. population of 300 million, 600 million, or 1.2 billion people in 2100. I mean, good Lord, can y'all imagine what a population of 1.2 billion people in America would look like? I mean, you can look at the overpopulated cities in America. They're not the cities that you want to live in. You know how expensive it is to live in New York City, to live in Los Angeles, the poor quality of life, the traffic jam, the expensive apartments. Your best quality of life is going to be in a city that isn't overpopulated. This is common sense. We don't have to make the math this complicated. You can look at it in real time and see that overpopulation does have a real impact on your quality of life. Like immigration, for the past 50 years, immigration policy for the next 50 looks likely to be set with no regard for its environmental consequences. We believe this situation is a bad thing. As committed environmentalists, we would like to see our government set immigration policy and all government policy within the context of a commitment to sustainability. We don't believe that the goals we share with our fellow environmentalists, with a large majority of our fellow citizens, clean air and clean water, livable and uncrowded cities, sharing land with the full complement of its native flora and fauna, are compatible with continued population growth. It is time to rein in this growth or forthrightly renounce the hope of living sustainably here in the United States. This is not sustainable. If that US dollar collapses, we are done. We do not have the infrastructure to grow our own food, to provide for ourselves. And this is a disaster. I'm going to skip through this. What this part is basically saying is that um, the Americans have really been reproducing at replacement rate, but we're not getting the benefits of it because of immigration. Because of immigration, our population is still growing despite the fact that most of us are being responsible. Between 1982 and 2001, the United States converted 34 million acres of forest, cropland, and pasture to develop uses, an area the size of Illinois. The average annual rate of land conversion increased from 1.4 million acres to 2.2 million acres over this time and continues on an upward trend. Sprawl is an environmental problem for lots of reasons, including increased energy consumption, water consumption, air pollution, and habitat loss for wildlife. Habitat loss is by far the number one cause of species endangerment in the United States. Unsurprisingly, some of the worst sprawl centers, such as southern Florida and Los Angeles Basin, also contain large numbers of endangered species. What causes sprawl? Transportation policies that favor building roads over mass transit appear to be important sprawl generators. So are zoning laws that encourage leapfrog developments far out into the country, and tax policies that allow builders to pass many of the costs of new development on to current taxpayers rather than new home buyers. Between 1970 and 1990, these other factors caused Americans' per capita land use in the 100 largest metropolitan areas to increase 22.6%. Um, Now, a lot of y'all will talk about these conspiracy theories when it comes to population control, that they're trying to reduce the population to somewhere between a billion and half a billion, and they're going to basically herd us into these smaller areas so that we can have the rest of the planet for wildlife. Um, if y'all believe that, I don't understand why y'all would be procreating. I don't understand why y'all would support open borders, because they're basically going to do this through force if it's going to be done at all. And the world leaders already know that this is a disaster and that what we're doing right now is not sustainable, and they are going to. I mean, this is not even a secret. I think I've covered this before, that this is a part of the United Nations agenda to reduce the world population. I feel like they're sending mixed messages, because the world leaders are telling us to have fewer children. At the same time, the corporations are telling us to have more children so they can basically have an oversupply of labor. So you can do that if you want to. Maybe you're not going to have to suffer the consequences of overpopulation, of a destroyed economy, of a destroyed environment, but your children and your grandchildren are going to have to suffer those consequences. This is not a myth. You can see it happening already. You can see what is happening locally. You can see the high gas prices. You can see the high food prices. Increased demand. It all leads to the same consequences. If there were fewer people, you would not have the high housing costs, right? Again, our population growth is not through fertility rates, it's through population growth or immigration, sorry. So gosh, I'm sorry. I guess I busted some people's bubble and I lost them, because this is the reason why people are supporting Trump. Even though Trump is full of shit, he is at least giving lip service to what people are concerned about. People don't want this, and yet everybody except Trump is supporting this bullshit. This is not what the American people want. You're not going to get the American voters' support if this is what the hell you're supporting. Now let me see. I don't know why the comments are not coming through. Something is going on with this because even I can't post. There we go. There we go. So now it's back up. I can post comments. So anybody wants to come up, you can debate me because I'm for some reason I feel like I'm the only one who's saying this stuff because again, this is being discussed all over Europe. They all know about overpopulation and migration. But at the same time, the Europeans are told not to reproduce and they are being responsible. So people keep talking about how, the European population is dying out. No, they're not dying out. It's not like they're infertile. They're being told not to procreate and they're listening to this shit. And now they're being replaced with migrants. So all these Europeans are dying out because they're feeding into this bullshit. And they're being replaced by countries who are not being told not to reproduce. So they don't even get to reap the benefits of their responsible behavior. They're just gonna they're still gonna be overwhelmed with migrants and they're still gonna have an overwhelmed economy. Yeah, this is the disaster. This needs to be a global approach. You can't just do it locally. Everybody needs to start reproducing. But when one segment decides that they're gonna be responsible and then the irresponsible countries gets to offshore their irresponsible behavior and just come into your country, your local economy, and just take all the jobs and take all the resources and just replace you. That's not a solution either. Everybody, this needs to be a global approach. Everybody needs to told to stop having so many damn children. But when you come to a country and you're having 5, 6, 7, 8 children, that is a problem, and we don't want that. We don't even want the native born Americans to do that shit. And y'all know I'm an anti-natalist, so my proposal would be for nobody to have any fucking children. I don't support that either. I don't support anybody having children, even the native born. But if you are going to have children, at least do it at replacement rate. You should not be having more than 2 children. What accounts for this discrepancy? The number one cause of sprawl is by far population growth. New houses, new shopping centers, and new roads are being built for new residents. Now, a lot of people will look at this as a good thing because there's economic opportunities. But guess what? You're destroying natural habitats to build shopping centers. Come on, this is not sustainable. Right? You're destroying the damn environment for some capitalistic bullshit. As figures 2A and 2B illustrate, in recent decades, cities and states with the highest population growth have also seen the most sprawl. The most comprehensive study to date on the causes of sprawl in the United States analyzed several dozen possible factors, grouping together all those factors which can increase per capita land use and comparing these with the single factors of more capitas. It found that in America between 1982 and 1997, 52% of sprawls was attributable to population increase, while 48% was attributable to misguided policies that increase land use per person. So this is all from migration. A lot of people will say you can just you can continue to have all these people crowd these cities. You just need to build more roads and just be more creative and find solutions. Use technology to accommodate them to produce more food and more No, there's a limit to that shit. There's a limit to ingenuity. Eventually, you're going to run into a fucking brick wall, and all those people are going to be they're going to be fucked. And that includes those migrants. By the way, immigration does not only hurt the native born Americans, it also hurts the immigrants who were here before, the new group of immigrants. So even the immigrants who just came here, they don't want more immigrants. They don't support this shit. They know that it's going to destroy the environment and the fucking economy. As the world's largest economy and historically largest greenhouse gas emitter, the United States has a moral obligation to lead the world in meeting this challenge. Look at the numbers. US CO2 emissions increased 20.4% between 1990 and 2005, from 4,991 to 6,009 million metric tons, which means that we would have to decrease our emissions 20.4% per person to get back to 1990 levels, right? So the easiest way to reduce emissions would be to reduce human population. Again, or not just America, but the Western world consumes 20 times as many resources as those in the third world. So the way to reduce those CO2 emissions would be to reduce the emissions. But no, what they're going to try to tell you is that you should just be responsible. You should just live a life of minimalism. You should just, I don't know, carpool. You should use your bicycle. You should have a shitty quality of life to accommodate all the people who want to procreate to access all the immigrants. They get to come in and use their cars, but you're supposed to sacrifice so that everybody can increase their quality of life at your expense. I'm not doing that shit. I don't have any children. I didn't increase the population at all. I should not have to sacrifice shit to accommodate other people. And this is something. What was that guy who died? The U.S. Gosh, I can't think. That big old guy, fat guy, who was a UN. Gosh, I can't think of his fucking name. Anyway, I'm not even gonna try because I don't want to waste any time. I'm just going to keep going. I can't think of his name, but he. I think he was a Secretary of Henry Kissinger. That's who I was trying to think of. Henry Kissinger was talking about that, talking about how we could actually consume more if there were fewer people. And then people were talking about how fat he was. That's fine. Henry Kissinger was fat, and that's fine. You can consume more. You can be as fat as you want and eat as much shit as you want, as long as you don't have any damn children. But what they're going to tell you is that, oh, we should just increase the population and we should just sacrifice and live a life of minimalism. We should all go vegan. We should all carpool. We should all have shitty lives and live in tiny apartments. Why? Why should we do that when the easiest way to save the environment would be to reduce the population growth? Hold on a minute, critics may respond. We can and should cut our carbon emissions 60% or even more. The technologies exist, and America is wealthy enough to meet our moral obligation to address global warming. The problem, above all, is America hoggish over consumption. Right? They're going to blame it on consumption and never address population growth and say that by the way, again, our wealth is based on a fiat currency. It's not natural wealth. The third world has natural wealth. Africa has natural wealth. South America has natural wealth. America does not have natural wealth. And I'm actually going to re-premiere the video I did a while back about Aristotle and what Aristotle said about unnatural wealth. That this is artificial and it's not sustainable, so it's being propped up through government force. And so the fact that it's not natural wealth, you can't fix the economy or fix the environment through artificial wealth, right? And they keep talking about how the 1% has all the wealth. It's not real wealth. So the fact that the 1% is hoarding all that wealth, if they were actually spend that fake money, that fake fiat currency bullshit, you would destroy the fucking economy because it's not based on anything. We agree, limiting consumption must play an important role in addressing global warming. American environmentalists should work to enact policies that reduce our fossil fuel consumption as much as possible. Such policies should include increased taxes on fossil fuels, redirecting transportation funding from highway construction to mass transit. No, 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 I'm not supporting mass transit bullshit. I want to use my own damn car, and I should not have to pay high gas prices because other people decided to breed the excess. Heavy subsidies for wind and solar power, large increases in auto fuel standards, improved building codes that reduce the energy needed for heating and cooling, and more. However, re-engineering the world's largest economy and changing the consumption patterns of hundreds of millions of people are immense undertakings that will be difficult, expenses, and we may assume only partially successful. Al Gore has stated that global warming is the moral challenge of our time. Many of us agree with him, but if Americans are serious about doing our part to limit global warming, the multiplier effect of population growth is too important to ignore. Again, look at the numbers. Between 1990 and 2003, U.S. per capita CO2 emissions increased 3.2%, while U.S. CO2 emissions increased 20.2%. Why the discrepancy? During the same period, America's population increased 16.1%. So even if you reduce your CO2 emissions, if you increase the population growth, you're not it's a complete wash. It's what's the point in even being responsible and taking mass transit and doing all that recycling and going vegan and doing all that bullshit if you're just going to increase the population? It's for naught. You're not doing anything to save the damn environment. And all these environmentalists who are telling us to sacrifice and live a life of minimalism is bullshit. The number one way to save the environment is to reduce the population. Unless you do that, it's a complete waste of time. During that same period, America's population increased 16.1%. More people drove cars, built more houses, etc. Population growth increased total emissions, and it's total emissions, not per capita emissions, which quantify our full contribution to global warming. Before we go on, please note we do not claim that by itself halting U.S. population growth will solve sprawl or meet our global warming responsibilities. On the contrary, Americans must reduce our per capita consumption of land and energy in order to meet these challenges. On the other hand, the evidence clearly shows that recent population growth has increased Americans' total land and energy consumption and made these problems even worse. Americans must address both overconsumption and overpopulation if we hope to create a sustainable society and contribute to a sustainable world. Clearly, premises 2 and 3 are true. U.S. population growth contributes seriously to both domestic and global environmental problems. Can we go further and state with premise 4 that in order to seriously address environmental problems at home and become good global environmental citizens, we must stop U.S. population growth? Yes, we can. It is, of course, possible to spin out scenarios in which America's population doubles, triples, or quadruples, and yet we still manage through miracles of technology, creativity, or ethical self sacrifice to become ecologically sustainable. But these fantasies are implausible and therefore morally suspect as a basis for action or inaction. Given the difficulties of getting 300 million Americans to curb their consumption, there is no reason to think we will be able to achieve sustainability with 2, 3, or 4 times as many Americans. It's completely ridiculous. People are not going to make those sacrifices. They're not doing it now. The ones who are making those sacrifices, the ones who are going vegan, the ones who are recycling and carpooling and doing all that bullshit, those people are in a minority. Americans are over consumers. They want more and more and more. They want to drive their big old cars. they don't even just want to drive a car. They want a big old fucking Humvee, some gas guzzling, um, uh, high high octane vehicle, something that's going to be super fast. And it's almost as if the ones who populate the most, they're the ones who want the most. They want more resources. They're the ones who even they want more. They want more cars, more shit, more gadgets. Um, yeah, I'm a single person. I don't have any children. I don't feel that my consumption is really that high. But they want us. They want the single people to reduce more. They're actually rewarding the breeders of the world. They're giving them the tax cut to sack the tax incentives to have more children, even though they're the ones who are destroying the fucking planet. Even though they're the ones destroying the fucking economy. This is so fucking ass backwards. This is ridiculous. Um, I should get a damn tax cut for not having any fucking children. According to U.S. Department of Energy, in 2005, Americans averaged 5.4 metric tons of carbon generated per capita. That means each 46.2 million people added to the U.S. population adds more wedge of 250 million tons of carbon into the atmosphere. Immigration is set to add 57.3 million more people into the U.S. population in the next 50 years. Preventing that population increase would provide over one full U.S. wedge. So it's not even that Americans are emitting more, there's more carbon emissions. It's the immigration. The immigration is increasing the population, and because the American way of life is based on overconsumption, that is destroying the damn environment. Um, Unless Americans are willing to make extreme sacrifices, which they're not going to do voluntarily, the only way that Americans are going to reduce their consumption would be through government force. They're going rations and all kind of bullshit. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen voluntarily. So at some point, we're going to run into a damn brick wall, and they're not going to have a choice. Our way of life is going to change by force. This is not sustainable. This is bullshit. It is sustainable if we reduce the population, right? You can live a good quality of life in America with fewer people. But the way our immigration policies are going, no, this is a train running off the damn cliff. If the 2007 Bush-Kennedy immigration reform bill had passed Congress, immigration might have increased from 1.5 to 2.25 million annually. By our calculations, it would have increased America's population by 63.2 million more people over the next 50 years, pumping another 0.34 billion tons more carbon into the air annually. Adding that, more people would equal almost 1.5 U.S. wedges. Such considerations suggest that while we cannot prove that premise 4 is true, is highly probable. We must stop U.S. population growth in order to meet our environmental responsibilities. If we are good environmentalists, that should be enough. So here's their proposal. We propose that the United States reduce the immigration by taking the following measures. Cut legal immigration from 1 million to 200,000 per year, the level allowed during the middle of the last century. Reduce illegal immigration by strictly enforcing sanctions against employers who hire illegal workers. It is fruitless to try to lower illegal immigration levels by ignoring or condoning illegal immigration. Rework trade agreements and increase and better target development aid to help people live better lives in their own countries. Right. That is the way to help these people. We need to stimulate trade so they can have a high quality of life in their home countries. It's not to absorb them into the American economy and put a drain on our economy, and this is a drain on the carrying capacity. Again, a lot of people are completely ignorant when it comes to overpopulation. There is not an education about this. Even when I was in my master's program, nobody was talking about, and I was studying global economies, and I had to study overpopulation on my own, and I got a lot of pushback from my professors because they had never heard about this stuff. And the studies are there. It's just not being talked about in America. We all know what is destroying the economy and what is destroying the environment. It's overpopulation. So everybody keeps talking about how they want a high quality of life. They want jobs. They want this and that. But nobody's addressing the root cause of the problem, which is population growth. And again, the population growth in America is not through fertility rates, it's through immigration. Such a policy would allow some of the benefits immigration to continue, provide asylum for political refugees, allow small influxes of workers with special skills. Right, they need to have some kind of special skills. They need to have something that actually contributes to the American economy, because those who have skills actually do increase wages, but low-skilled workers, no, they lower everybody's wages. While helping the United States achieve a stable population within 3 decades, because our total fertility rates is right around replacement rate 2.1, such stabilization is no wild fantasy. The United States is nearly there if we are willing to limit immigration. So, I mean, this is an easy fix. Americans are already procreating at replacement rate. The only thing we need to do is change our immigration but they're not going to do it because they're selling the American people out. They're throwing us under the bus. And when the economy collapses, these globalists are just going to move on to another country, and we're going to be stuck in this shithole. It's already a shit. I'm sorry, people are criticizing Trump for saying it's a shit. It is a shithole. They don't like pessimism. They want some optimism bullshit. They want Kamala Harris to come in and tell us that everything is just peaches and roses, and it's not. This is a fucking shithole. Maybe it's peaches and roses over there in her elitist world, in her elitist bubble with her wealthy donors. It's not peaches and roses for me. And I'm sure it's not peaches and roses for y'all, because if it was peaches and roses, y'all probably wouldn't be on my channel, because I'm very pessimistic, and I live in a real world, and most of us are not doing well. So we need a dose of reality. The purpose of pessimism is not to be negative and just rain on people's parade. The only way you get a positive result is by focusing on the negative. You don't focus on the glass being half full. You focus on it being half empty so that you can fill the damn glass. So positivity does not do shit for anybody. It just makes people feel good. If you support the immigration status quo of 1.5 million immigrants annually, then you also support tripling America's population to about 100 million people by 2100. That sounds like a fucking nightmare. If you support reining in illegal immigration by continuing current levels of legal immigration into the United States, about 1 million annually, then you also support doubling America's population to about 600 million people by 2100. If you support an immigration policy along the lines of the Bush-Kennedy bill, which might have increased immigration to 2.25 million people annually, then you also support quadrupling America's population to about 1,200 million people by 2100. These are the numbers. These people who support open borders, this is some pie in the sky bullshit that they just, on principle, right, ethically, they think that we should just have open borders because it's not nice to have closed borders, whatever, some feel-good bullshit. When you look at the numbers, what type of quality of life do you think we're going to have if we have 1,200 million people coming into America, between 1,200 and 2,100 million. That sounds like a fucking hellscape. That sounds like a shitty way of life. And they know good and damn well that they would not want to live in that type of environment. I don't know. There's no limit. When they say that they want open borders, they literally want open borders. They don't care how many people come into America. They don't care whether it's a billion, whether it's 2 billion, 5 billion. Let's put all 8 billion people into the United States, and they would not give a shit. Because at the end of the day, if America goes to hell, they're just going to run off and go to another country. They have enough money to do it. If you support these three scenarios or anything like them, then you don't just support drastically increasing America's human population. You also support more cars, more houses, more malls, more power lines, more concrete and asphalt. You support less habitat and resources for wildlife, fewer forests, prairies, and wetlands, fewer wild birds and wild mammals, except for perhaps house sparrows, rats. By the way, I fucking hate rats. Rats are fucking disgusting. And fewer other human commissals. You support replacing these other species with human beings and our economic support systems. Now, that is human supremacy. At the end of the day, you can't be a vegan if you procreate. Human species consuming animal products is not human supremacy. Procreation is human species supremacy. Excuse me, I keep getting my words mixed up. That is the worst case of human supremacy ever, to procreate and for humans to dominate the whole fucking planet. You're basically destroying all wildlife, and you're saying that nobody should exist except humans and fucking rats. In other words, if you support these three scenarios or anything like them, then you reject generous sustainability. Given a grave dangers flagged in the 2007 IPCC reports and the 2005 Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, if you support anything like these three scenarios, you cannot even plausibly claim to support a narrow anthropocentric sustainability. Now, the bottom half of this article gets into the moral objections, the ethical things, objections to opposing border protection. I'm not even going to get into that because I don't think that is relevant. This is not some touchy-feely bullshit about making people feel good. This is about survival. And at this point, we are in survival mode, and that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that should matter, especially if you have children. I don't have any children, so I don't have to worry about that shit. And I don't even give a shit about dying. If they legalized assisted suicide like they need to do, then my time is going to be short anyway. For those of you who are invested in this bullshit, you want to have children, you're invested in this for the long haul, and you care about the welfare of your children and your grandchildren, you need to fucking oppose open borders and massive migration. You need to oppose all this bullshit. Okay, now let's get into the comments, because I'm pretty much done with it. Gosh, we have a lot of comments. America has natural wealth. It's just privatized. Utah has 300 years of natural gas, but it'll likely be owned by a few investors who sell it to the highest bidder. Well, here's the thing. I talked to y'all about capitalism. That I don't support capitalism. I just did that whole article about capitalism and how it's unnatural wealth. That basically land and capital is not supposed to be owned by anybody. But under this capitalistic system, it is what it is. If they bought the land and they recorded it, then basically everybody else is disinherited by God, or disinherited from God, because that land is supposed to belong to everybody. God gave it to everybody. But capitalism is unnatural wealth by definition. So that is the system in which we live. So even if you're saying that we would have natural wealth under in a state of nature, that's not the system in which we live. So unless you're going to fight against this oppressive capitalistic bullshit, That's the system that we're stuck with. And so to couple capitalism with mass immigration, this is a fucking disaster, and we don't have that. Well, so the natural wealth, um okay, so you're talking natural gas, okay, but at the same time the government is against fracking. um and for environmental reasons, people don't want fracking, and so you're not even going to be able to tap into that natural gas, or it's not going to be as efficient without fracking. And by the way, they're fracking right here in Texas, and we get earthquakes and shit. So at the end of the day, you have to reduce population growth, because otherwise, this is the reason why you have pesticides in food, right? Because you have to produce food for a massive population growth. You have hormones and factory farms and all this bullshit that people are trying to fight against, where they're saying we should just go vegan. No, you can't just live a life of minimalism. You also have to reduce the damn population. Let's go to the next comment. Um, I agree. I'm trying to make sure y'all can see it. Okay, here we go. I agree. It's a grift. Check Michael Moore's documentary on the environmental scam. Windmills need natural gas reservoirs. They also kill way more geese and other birds than immigrants. Um, I don't. It's not immigrants specifically. What the issue is population growth. So it doesn't necessarily have to be immigrants, but if you increase the population through fertility rates, and you have high population density in cities like New York and Los Angeles, you're going to get the same effect. It doesn't have to be immigrants. This is not about blaming immigrants. It just happens that our population comes through immigration, but you can have population growth through other means. There are other countries like India, which has high population, which is not due to immigration, but this is America. And I'm going to get through these. By the way, if anybody wants to come up, you can. I've already posted the link. The security guard killed in Buffalo at the supermarket shooting created a water-based engine. He was assassinated and his patent stolen. Now Elon Musk is talking about a hydro. But I don't support patents either. That's another um, wealth stealer. That's just unnatural wealth. Intellectual property. That's bullshit. That is statism. And all this property bullshit, this capitalistic bullshit, there's no such thing as intellectual property. That's bullshit. Shadow ban. Yes, that part. Capitalism means nothing more than gatekeeping and keeping the most of us impoverished. Exactly. The only part I disagree with you saying that they will move on to another country, leaving us in a shithole. Correction. They are moving on to the next planet. Okay. Well, either way, if they are moving on to another planet, we're not going to have access to that. We're going to be stuck in the same shithole. So, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that we are doing it to ourselves. It's manufactured consent, because they're telling us that open borders is ethical, that we should be humane and compassionate. No, charity starts at home. You need to care about your own damn children before you care about somebody else's children, because they sure as hell care about their own damn children before they care about you. So they're going to come here. They want a better life for themselves and their children, even if it's at your expense. They're not even thinking about you. They're not even thinking about how they can benefit you. A lot of them are coming here telling you that they don't even support reparations, and they don't support anything that's going to benefit or improve your quality of life. But you're supposed to care about their quality of life. They are the main antagonist to your welfare, your ability to improve your quality of life. They don't support any of that shit. So why should you? It's survival of the damn fittest. This ethical bullshit of caring about your common. Yeah, you should care about your common man. You should care about Americans. You should put the American people first. You should put people in your hometown first. Um, Globalism is bullshit. Don't let them fucking brainwash you into thinking that you are a global citizen. No, you are an American citizen. You are a citizen of your hometown. The more local, the better. You should support. You should care about what did Aristotle say? You should care about family, or human beings gather based on family, community, and then polity. So that's the order that you should care about. You should care about your family first. You should care about the people in your hometown first, your county first, your state first, your country first, and then everybody else last. That's the way. It's survival. We're not. This is not time to be a fucking Boy Scout, Girl Scout. All that shit needs to fucking go out the window. This is survival mode. This is about trimming the fat and caring about your own welfare and the welfare of your own children, especially if you have children. I don't have, and like what is that guy? That Vance guy who said that those of us who don't have children, we're not. No, I don't have children, so I'm not. I should not be invested in this as much as you should be if you have children. But I can still look at this logically and see that this is a fucking train wreck. This is not fucking sustainable. And I mean, vote. Okay, this is the reason why. And at the end of the day, Trump is full of shit too, because Trump is supposed to be the nationalist candidate, right? At the end of the day, I'm going to vote for Jill Stein because Jill Stein supports the right to die, and that's, to me, I'm a single voter issue in this coming election. But Trump is supposed to be the nationalist candidate, but the other candidates are all globalists. And Trump is probably a globalist too. So at the end of the day, we're all fucked. We don't have a nationalist candidate on the ballot. We need to have one. Who's putting America first? Nobody. None of these candidates are putting America first. So they're all fucking globalists, and we're fucked. We're fucked. I don't know. I don't know who to tell you to vote for. Again, I'm voting for Jill Stein because she supports my right to die. So I get to fucking make a grateful exit from this bullshit, but I don't know what the rest of y'all are gonna do. I don't. Some of y'all are telling people that they need to stockpile water, you need to have some canned goods and shit. Grow your own crop. No. Look at what happened to the fucking Bolsheviks. Look at what happened in Russia. I'm not going to say too much on YouTube because I don't want to get in trouble. But no, you need to have a better strategy than that. And you're fucked. We're all fucked, and you should not be procreating, especially in this fucking economy. I'm going to get off here unless somebody wants to come up. And a lot of these immigrants are coming from extremely harsh conditions compared to some coddled Americans. They're more ruthless. Exactly. They are more ruthless. And that's why, and I actually have, listen, for those of you who are immigrants, I actually respect you because I get what you're doing, and I think that anybody in your situation should do exactly what you're doing, right? That's what's in your rational self-interest. Your rational self-interest is to come to America, get on welfare, and climb your way up the corporate ladder, put your children through school, and do whatever the hell you got to do. It's smart. It's intelligent. You should be doing that shit. That's what we all. Anybody who lives in a third world household, you should be coming to America and getting on welfare. So I'm not even faulting you. I have no animus against you. It's our politicians who are allowing you to do that. So this is the game. Don't hate the fucking hater. Don't hate the game. Sorry, I'm getting that shit off backwards. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. The game is fucking rigged, and you're just capitalizing on a rigged system. So it's not your damn fault. I'm not mad at you. I don't fucking hate immigrants. You're smart. It's the Americans who are the fucking dumbasses because we're supporting this bullshit system. So for the person who is from Mexico, it's not your fucking fault. I'm not blaming you. You should come to America and try to make a better life for you and your family. But Americans are dumb for supporting this bullshit. Gosh. I mean, I don't just want to sit up here and talk to y'all because people were telling me that I should just focus on politics and just focus on what's going. No, I want to get into the philosophy behind it. I want to talk to y'all about how we got to where we are, and the boring minutia that I talk about, the videos and the live streams that get few views. that's the crux of what my channel is about. The stuff that y'all are not listening to, that's the reason why we are where we are, because y'all don't understand. When I talk, somebody in the comment section said, "Oh, it's too complicated. The numbers." I don't know what to tell you. The problem is that y'all are deferring to these politicians. You're deferring to the experts. You think that these doctors and these politicians and these lawyers, they're smarter than you. They know shit that you're not capable of understanding. And what they're doing is they are exploiting your damn ignorance. So at some point, you need to bite the bullet. You need to actually understand what is going on for yourself, because otherwise you're going to be fucked, because they know that you're fucking ignorant. And I'm not saying this to be insulting. I'm ignorant about a lot of things too. I'm still learning. There's a lot of stuff that I don't. But okay, here's the thing about me. The difference between me and most of y'all is I already know that this is bullshit and the system is rigged, which is why I'm not going to have any fucking children. Right? I don't think some of y'all are optimistic that y'all think that there's hope that you can actually change this outcome. I don't think that way. I've given up a long fucking time ago. I'm just basically passing time, waiting to fucking croak, or I'm ready to meet my fucking maker. So I'm just basically here. I'm just floating around aimlessly. I don't give a shit. Y'all actually care about this bullshit, and y'all are still being led fucking astray. No, but this is not. Right now, I'm just fucking ranting. What y'all need to be paying attention to is the boring philosophical shit that I talk about that gets maybe 50 views. That's the shit y'all need to go back and listen to, because that's the meat and potatoes. This shit, right? This is just me fucking ranting. This is not going to help you. This is me telling y'all need to get your shit together, especially if you have fucking children. This is bullshit. They're selling you a fucking bill of goods. They're not looking out for your best interests. I showed y'all that study from Harvard, from Princeton, that these politicians don't give a shit about you. They look at the policies. Even if the majority of Americans support a particular policy position, excuse me, they are going to disregard what you say, and they are going to go along with what the top 1% says. And then what they're going to do is they are going to have manufactured consent. They're going to have something that you don't support, like, for example, some bullshit war that nobody fucking supports. And then they're going to have a propaganda machine to tell you that you should support it. And then you're going to support it because the media told you to support it. So you're going to support this fucking bullshit war that's basically going to take away from tax resources that should go to you and your family, because they told you to fucking support it. They're going to have all these fucking divisive bullshit issues that you shouldn't be focusing on. They're going to tell you to focus on fucking transgender and all this bullshit, because they don't want you to focus on what's really important. At the end of the day, it's about the fucking economy. And as a corollary, it's immigration also, because the resources are going to them. I told y'all that democracy is majoritarian, so it's a competition for resources. It's a bunch of factions, and most of the time the factions are going to be based on race and ethnic groups. So, and I'm sorry, y'all, I don't want to be racist, but that's the way the system is. It's the way. It doesn't necessarily have to be race, because now they're trying to make it about gender, and it can also be LGBT, right? It can be based on things besides race, but at the end of the day, it's going to be about factions. So, you're going to, okay, let me tell y'all another faction. Another faction is religion, which is why a lot of people they're not even really Christians. They may be Mormons, they may be Muslim, they may be Scientologists, whatever. That's a fucking okie doke too. That's how it's majoritarian. So you get in with one of those factions, which can be religion, and then you have a voting block which can compete for resource. That's all it is. You don't necessarily have to believe shit that they tell you to do. A lot of these fucking Christians are not really Christians. Okay, Christians, Protestant Christians are not really that powerful. Catholics are. Catholics are a real powerful voting bloc. Um, the Catholic Church, the Pope, all that shit. There's power in that. To align yourself with Catholics, there's to be a Protestant. No, they don't give a fuck about Protestants. To be a fucking dumb Baptist, no, you don't mean shit to them. They don't give a fuck about you. They're going to just a Protestant Christian is at the very bottom of the barrel when it comes to politics. They're going to disregard you and skip over you to get to anybody else besides a Protestant Christian. So I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just giving y'all the fucking raw truth. To be Jewish, to be Catholic, to be Mormon, to be anybody else besides a Protestant Christian, you're going to have some kind of political power. And I don't know what else to tell you. So if you are going to be Christian, you need to at least be Catholic. Don't be a fucking Protestant because you don't fucking matter. All right, y'all. I've been ranting and ranting. Unless y'all want me to talk about anything else, I don't know what else to say. I know I probably lost some subscribers because I know some of y'all are immigrants, but again, I don't fucking hate you for it. I think it's the fucking system. It's a rigged system and you're taking advantage of it, which is exactly what you should do. It is in your rational self-interest to do this shit, but it's in our rational self-interest to put a fucking clock in this fucking system. And I don't know why nobody's talking about this. The Green Party in Europe does support limiting immigrants. They do support population control, but in America, it's not even fucking discussed. So I don't know what that is. I don't know. I can't point to one political party or one organization which is actually espousing the interests of the everyday American people, the low, middle class. By the way, I'm going to get to what was that article about? The middle class. Oh, it's Aristotle. Because Aristotle talks about the golden mean. The golden mean is not too little and not too much. So the heart of America is not the poor, because the poor just want to take wealth from everybody else, right? The rich just want to hoard their wealth and basically be oligarchs and basically be assholes who control it. The middle class, the only truth is the golden means. It's the middle class. The middle class is going to be fair to everybody, for the poor, for the wealthy. That's where the concentration of power should be, is the middle class, not the poor, not the wealthy, but the middle class. Okay. If there truly is no more upward mobility for the average American-born citizen, there's I don't know. There is. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to lie to you and say that you know what your situation is, right? You know what kind your finances are. You know what your prospects are going into the future. Only thing I can say, if you don't have children, don't have children. If you have children, try to protect them as much as you can. Try to give them some skills that's going to give them a good quality of life. I would say, teach them Spanish, because that's where the economy is going, that everybody needs to learn Spanish. You need to give them put them in a STEM program versus some liberal arts bullshit, and basically just prepare them for this bullshit. But there's not hope. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but that's the way I see it. Hope for what? At the end of the day, you need to figure out what is the purpose of life. And they always tell you there's a purpose, and that you're going to figure it out somewhere down the road, and that they keep kicking the can down the road to say that there's a purpose, and God's going to reveal it to you at some point. There's no fucking purpose to this shit. You're here, okay? You're here because your parents wanted to self-actualize at your expense. Your parents didn't have any purpose for their life, so by having children, they gave some kind of superficial purpose to their lives that now they get to focus on having their children, and they get narcissistic supply from it. But from the capitalistic perspective, you are here to be labor for this system. You are here to obey laws. The government wants subjects to oppress and to control, and they get off on this shit. They're sadistic as hell. They want you to be fucking harassed when you go to work and fucking pull you over and haul you off into some fucking court, and they want to put you in some prison system. There is no fucking purpose to this shit. There is no objective. When I talk to y'all about anti-natalism, David Benatar laid this shit out. There's a terrestrial level and there's a celestial level. From the terrestrial level, yeah, you can give your life purpose that you can have purpose within your own family. Most people will be completely forgotten within 2 to 3 generations. You'll be lucky if you remember it within 2 generations. After that, you're completely forgotten. If you're somebody like Martin Luther King or some president or somebody, yeah, you'll be remembered. There'll be history books written about you. But you're an everyday person. No, your life doesn't matter. Nobody's gonna remember you. But that's at the terrestrial level. At the celestial level, the stars and the planets and everything else, you don't matter. You're completely irrelevant. I guess the trick is I'm going to tell y'all from the Kabbalah standpoint and just from the mystery schools and Mormonism and all that shit. The trick is basically to not think of yourself as an individual. Those who don't think of that, even, yeah. If you realize that we are one, then you don't have to be stressed out about the fact that you don't matter as an individual. When you're connected to the source, which I'm, technically an atheist because I don't believe it's a higher power. When you connect to the source, we are all one. And so you as an individual, you don't matter. You focus on the source or the one or the God or the eternal light or whatever the fuck you want to call it. If you want to give it some type of power, then yeah, you can say that you're serving a greater good. But to me, that's bullshit. You don't matter as an individual. At the end of the day, what is this? From cradle to grave. You're born to fucking die. What kind of life? You can try to have some kind of, you can have a hedonistic life. You want to live your life pursuing pleasure? Fine. That's why I don't judge people who are on drugs. I don't judge people who are promiscuous. I don't judge any of that shit. You need to do whatever the best you can do to try to get through this bullshit. The people who I think are fools are the people who live their life of sacrifice, of trying to be prudish. Oh, I'm only going to save myself for the right person. I'm going to have sex with one man. I'm going to be frugal, and no. You need to stop doing that shit. The only thing that you should be frugal about would be you should not be gluttonous when it comes to procreation. You should not have children. But aside from that, you should be as gluttonous as possible. You should more. You should just have as much fun as possible. And because at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. There's no point to this shit. So enjoy your life as much. It's hell. And if you try to live your life of minimalism, which is what they're telling you to do, to be sacrificial, go vegan, and don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. Live your life and enjoy it as much as you possibly can. I'm child free. I'm just going to try to enjoy it. That's what you should do. Well, I'm not going to learn Spanish either because it's too fucking difficult. But if you have children, I think you should try to get them to learn Spanish. It's much easier to learn Spanish or a foreign language when you're a child. But unless somebody wants to come up, I'm pretty much out of shit to say. I posted a link. I don't know if anybody wants to come up here, but the only way you're going to be able to compete with the migrants is if you are bilingual. And that is because they're not able to discriminate based on race or ethnicity. But if you can speak Spanish, then that's going to level the playing field. But I was trying to tell my brother to get my niece to learn Spanish, but he didn't listen to me. Yeah, I can't speak a fucking lick of Spanish. and it's very difficult. They always talk about how hard it is to learn English. It's difficult as fuck to learn Spanish. Um, and they talk so damn fast, you don't know what the hell they're saying. So yeah, it's so biased that you're supposed to have so much compassion for them. Um, but they don't have any compassion for you. The fact that you can't speak Spanish. It's just, oh well, get over it. You just need to learn. What the hell? This And if Trump had any fucking gumption, he could have at least made English the official language. He could have done that shit. Aside from the fact that he didn't. Okay, I'm not even going to talk about the damn wall because that sounds like statism shit. Again, some of y'all conflate statism with nationalism. It's not the same damn thing. Borders are a part of natural law. It's not the same thing. Well, German is really close to English. English is a Germanic language, so I would imagine that learning German is not as difficult as learning Spanish. But at the same time, Germany is not a global power, so learning German is not really going to help you economically. Learning Spanish would. So there's that. I don't know what you're going to do with that German language. Employers are looking for Spanish, not German. So I think German is interesting to speak it when I hear it. But what are you going to do with it? Okay, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to get off here because I don't know what else to say. But I would advise y'all to go back and listen to the videos that got, or the live streams that got few views, because this is just a rant. There's no substance with this one. Okay, just for fun. Yeah, I think German is interesting. German has a lot of history. A lot of it has been wiped out because of World War II. But prior to that, it had a very rich history. German food is actually pretty good. The German sausages and the bread, and yeah, there's a lot of good things about Germany aside from World War II. But yeah, that's a stain on Germany that I guess they're never going to be able to get past. So I don't know what else to say, y'all. No, because they talk so fast. That's the problem. I mean, I live around people who speak Spanish, but I can't even try to discern a word, in between. Like, to try to pull apart one word, it sounds like it's all running together. I don't know what the hell they're saying. All right, let me get off here. Y'all have a good day, and for those of you who are on the anti-natalist channel, I didn't live stream on both channels. Oh, it actually is on both channels. I didn't think that I did that. Okay, so now I don't have to download it. So, all right, y'all have a good day. I'm going to get off here. Talk to y'all.